Friends, it gives me a great pleasure to be with you again for the 9th lecture in our series of environmental studies. Myself, Professor D.V. Jagirdar, retired as Professor of Chemistry at Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Aurangabad, and is presently keenly interested in the environmental studies. Already we had talked about air pollution. Air is very important for us. A man cannot sustain without air for a few hours even. Next to air is important is water. Water is a unique liquid. Those who have gone as in satellites and have watched the earth from the space, see that the earth looks absolutely blue. This blue color of earth is due to the water content on the earth. Believe me, our earth is a unique planet in the solar system, because no other planet in the solar system has got so much amount of water. We always feel that water is abundant, and that is why it should be free with us, or we should get it free. Water is abundant in the form of sea, rivers, rainwater, groundwater, well water, and all of you know very well tap water. You open the tap and water flows through it, and you feel that water is very cheap and abundant. But such is not the case presently. Water is a very costly thing which has to be remembered by all of us. It is available, but it is not abundantly available to us, especially the people who are living in Maharashtra. Our earth contains 71% of water, which has been mainly present in sea as salt water, and that is why it is not useful for human beings. Out of the remaining 29%, almost 99.7% of it is present with glaciers, and you know large glaciers present in Arctic and Antarctic circles. They are mainly consisting of water. The only available water which is usable for the human beings is 0.03%. This is called potable water. To talk in a simple language, if you have got 100 liters of water on the earth, the useful drinking water for human beings is only half tablespoon, which is equal to 0.003 ml. The paucity of water is playing a very important role in our society in the present days, and we hear about the paucity in newspapers and even on TV channels. What is the reason for this? Is that we have to use water carefully. Water has got 2 point sources. One is 1 point source, where water source can be identified and recognized. We have got municipal water coming through taps, but rainwater, groundwater, actually the source is not completely known. This particular water, when it gets contaminated, we say it is polluted. The pollution means water is not safe for drinking purposes. For drinking purposes, water must be colorless, odorless and tasteless. If water is smelling, one can get the smell through our nose. If water has got some color, we can see through our eyes. But if water has got bacteria, one cannot identify with the senses of organs we have got. This bacterial water is itself very dangerous, and one has to be extremely careful to protect ourselves from this type of water. As all of us know very well, bacteria in a small form are very good for intestinal digestion, but when the amount of bacteria increases, they go out through human body through excretion, and this excreta is always washed by water and goes in the nullas which are passing by our houses. These particular nullas meet the rivulets, and the rivulets ultimately meets the river, and the river finally goes in the sea. Thus, the water cycle, though it is small in the beginning, it gets an enlarged space when it goes in the space. We also know that the diseases like typhoid, dysentery, diarrhea are the outcome of water pollution, and this pollution is because of the bacteria present in. What happens is that during rainy season, water gets muddy, and in villages there is no possibility of purifying the water. That is why the people they have to drink muddy water. This particular water gets into their stomach, causes the diseases. That is why the first pollutant of water is disease borne or what the disease borne water. As all of you know very well, previously we used to boil water if you want to give it to small children. This boiled water was cooled and then it was given or supplied to the small children below 5 years old. This was because of the fact that bacteria present in water do not sustain above 60 degrees centigrade, and that is why water gets polluted. Another cause of pollution in water is through the garbage. We throw our garbage outside our house, and this particular habit of ours has to be abandoned for safety and security. Again this water flows, this garbage flows with water and makes the whole atmosphere dirty. As all of you know very well, the garbage is of two types, one is dry and other is wet, and when water falls on it, then automatically it starts stinking. The stinking of this particular garbage is responsible because of the organic gases coming through it, and these organic gases are highly toxic. So, it is our habit which we must cultivate, so that water does not get contaminated. Then another type of pollution that we see always in water is through industrial water, is through garbage water, is through groundwater, oil spillage in water, and which you have to discuss one by one. Oil spillage is a very important reason, because old tankers actually which move in seas. In 1983, an Exxon tanker which has got a very high capacity of 300,000 tons of oil got leaked actually in the Arctic Circle. The spillage was so common that a 16 kilometer dive was completely filled with oil, resulting in a loss of fishes. And you will not believe that almost 3 lakh fishes died in this particular encounter. Exxon has to be, or Exxon was taxed for that by the government, and they had to pay a penalty of $2.2 million for that. It means that the spillage of water in the sea also or in the Arctic region, wherever it is definitely causing water pollution. Then water is known to us or come to us through another point, and that is what is known as groundwater. The groundwater means whenever rain falls, this particular falling of rain percolates in the ground and then slowly goes down by percolation through the porous material of the rocks. In the beginning, when the earth was formed, there was no water, and when prehistoric time tells that when water started falling, it was not salty. Nobody has tested it, nobody can test it whether it was or not, but it was concluded because of the fact that that water directly came from the rains. Water when it falls on the rocks, it has got a viscosity property, with the result that each water drop picks up the mud and that particular mud is followed. This particular mud flows with water, this mud gets settled in the soil and the water percolates. The percolation of water is deep down, that means initially actually the water level or water table as it is called was 50 to 30 feet down below the surface of the earth. That is why our wells were shallow and we could take off the water very well and very easily. But now the groundwater level has gone down, with the result that we have to go down to 100 feet or more than even 100 feet. 100 meters, that is almost equal to 250 feet. This particular water is not abundant, but it is full of mud. This mud actually is because of the fact that when water is percolating through the soil, it takes up the rock mud, and in that percolation, when it gets accumulated or assembled at a particular point, it is not a pure water, it is water plus mud. A very fine incident which is not very fortunate, but which you must be aware of it, that Brahmaputra river comes from Himalayas, follows in Tibet, then comes to West Bengal. In West Bengal, it brings lot of mud, and that particular mud water or the water containing mud is very heavy. During 1993, a doctor in Jadavpur University by name Professor Saha got very curious patients. Each patient was suffering from skin disease, and this particular skin disease was actually resulting in small patches throughout their body. Typically, they were coming from one district only, and the name of the district is Purulia. Initially, everybody in the village thought that this is leprosy, and these people were boycotted from the society, and in sheer desperation they approached the doctor, that is called the medical center at Jadavpur University. The doctor examined the patches, he studied thoroughly and then came to a very interesting conclusion that these particular patches are coming out due to arsenic poisoning. Now, the question is, from where the arsenic is coming? Why these particular people are only getting affected in arsenic? Whether arsenic is present in Brahmaputra water, whether arsenic is coming in the mud that is coming in Purulia district, because Purulia district actually is on the river bank of Brahmaputra. All these questions were to be researched. The doctor took a research team and all the team examined it. In addition to that, they got a foundation from United States of America, from where expert agricultural chemists came to Calcutta and analyzed the problem. They came to conclusion by their investigation that it is the groundwater which has been affected by arsenic. What is the cause of this? The groundwater was full of arsenic coming from sulfur and its reaction with iron pyrites. This arsenic got liberated, it trickled down the rocks and finally settled at one particular point, which was the point of a well from where all the people who suffered were drinking water. Now, this particular type of care was not taken by the people because they were ignorant, and in their ignorance they swallowed the water. So, one has to be extremely careful now. When you drink water, you have to be very careful. But as I said earlier, you can smell water if it is dirty, you can feel the color of the water, but you cannot identify the bacteria. That is why water that should come to us must be very clean, and we have to be very clear whatever we add to our body through our mouth. Do not drink the water if it is not looking clean. Another type of pollution also is what is called radioactive pollution and hot water pollution. This radioactive pollution means thereby if there is a radioactive spillage. A number of times accidents occur in Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island accident, where radioactive material is thrown out through the atomic reactors. These particular radioactive material are active and they throw out alpha, beta, gamma rays which affect the animal world. When these particular affect the fish world, fish are eaten by human beings. These human beings also are affected by radioactive material. This is a very particular or peculiar cycle. Even if a man has got 0% of radioactive material, plankton, that is the vegetables which are present in seas, absorb this herbaceous material, is eaten by first by small fishes, shrimps. The shrimps are eaten by big fishes. The fishes are collected by human being and a man is suffering. If the toxicity is 0 ppm with a man, it becomes 1 ppm for a plankton, 2 ppm for small fish, 3 ppm for shrimp, 10 ppm for big fish and 50 ppm for still big fish. The man collects or the fisherman collects all these fishes. These fishes are sent to the market without any understanding that they are radioactive. This radioactivity is therefore to be deposited and to be cared for very much. Another type of pollution which is very common nowadays, or nowadays it is not so much, but previously we used to spray DDT as a pesticide on soil. This pesticide used to kill bacteria, fungicides, insecticides, and this would result in abundance in crops. The abundance in the crops almost compel people or peasants to use this particular DDT. But this DDT was washed by rainwater and again it went to sea or river. One interesting point is that DDT has got a life period. It has got a half life of 10 to 15 years, meaning thereby the activity of DDT can sustain half or 50% until 10 to 15 years. That is why DDT is very active, and now it is almost banned for agricultural products. It is only used to kill mosquitoes. So, one has to be very careful when you think the all types of pollution like this. There is another type of pollution that we are getting, that is called hot water pollution. Hot water pollution means in the new projects where there is a large amount of machineries operating in the campus, these machinery use turbines. These turbines are used for generating power. Water is used in these turbines. The water that is very hot now is being thrown out through the turbines. It has to be cooled, it is partially cooled and then thrown out. This particular hot water, when it comes out to the channel or to the gutter or to the pipes, it gets the whole atmosphere warm and the water also is warm. This particular water gets collected in the groundwater. One additional point which all of us must remember, that there is a municipal sewage and there are sewage pipes put by the municipalities which are underground, but the sewage pipes and drinking water pipes are close to each other, with the result that if the sewage water pipes leaks, then that sewage actually enters to the pipes coming from drinking water. So, drinking water also gets contaminated. This contamination of drinking water is ultimately coming through our taps, and that is why our water also gets polluted. This pollution of water therefore has to be looked from three different angles. The general pollution we have seen, what a human being can do to stop this pollution. There are several things that we can do to stop this pollution or partially eliminate it. We have got a very bad habit of keeping our taps open while we are shaving or we are toothbrushing. Somebody has calculated that if you keep the tap open while you are shaving, that almost per day every individual is wasting 10 liters of water per day. The tap water or at least 10 liters of water per family. Whenever somebody comes to you and asks for water, you give a full cup of water or a full glass of water, the person concerned drinks only half and throws half the water. One additional point which has to be pondered over into detail, because India has now given a slogan, the Prime Minister has requested to all the citizens in India to make India clean, Swachhata Bharat Mohim, which is known to all of us. This is a very important fact, because our country as such is not at all known for cleanliness. The uncleanliness on the roads, the uncleanliness in our houses is due to the paucity of water. The modern ways in which houses are constructed or the flats are built, our toilets are inside our house, and every time when we piss or loo, we flush that material. During flushing, 10 liters of water or at least 8 liters of water is passed through that. Unless and until we use that much amount of water, stinking cannot be stopped. So, this is a very interesting or a great question facing all of us, because we have brought the latrines in our houses. If they want to remain clean, you have to use this much amount of water. So, almost per a house 200 liters of water is wasted, or you can use for this particular purpose. So, lot of work is going on this particular direction. In Saudi Arabia, they used sea water in the toilets, and the sea water is cleaned and then it is being used. Those who are participating in Swachhata Mohim have said that we cannot completely stop non-use of water. What you can do is, when you loo or when you can go to toilet, use 10 liters of water, but when you urinate, use a small quantity of water. That is why they have got two flush systems. Somebody has suggested a very simple device: reduce the quantity of water that you are using for flush. Now, all these things though look trifle, and somebody has very sarcastically said, this is a very dirty thing, why should we discuss in public? But nowadays this dirty thing has taken a great toll of our life, because if you do not take precaution, then water will be completely consumed and there will be no usable water for us. In 2050, our population will be almost double, and this double population will find the use of water which they cannot get. That is why internal strife will be there, and that will be very common. So, we have seen individual cases of water, individual persons who are doing this. Now, let us go to some other point. We have water from rivers and from seas. River water is a very important device for our drinking purposes, and many people used to swim in rivers. We treat the rivers as goddess, and that is why we have given names of goddesses to them. Ganga, Godavari, Yamuna, Kaveri, Krishna are all these rivers which are like goddesses, and they have to remain clean. What happens is that because of our habits, we have made them unclean. This was the case in Europe and America also, but these people have taken lot of care and spent lot of money to completely purify their rivers. In 1854, Thames in London was an unclean river, and the issue was discussed in the British Parliament. Attempts were made and billions of dollars were spent on that, and now Thames is claimed as one of the cleanest river in the world. Similarly, Pontemac river in Washington was also stinking, that also was cleaned. So, let us pause for a minute and find out why the rivers get unclean. Rivers get unclean because of the fact that we throw all our garbage. Human excreta comes through rivers, through nalas and fall in the rivers, and then finally industrial effluents are also falling in rivers. The river is going fast. The water actually in the beginning that is coming from Himalayas has got a great momentum, but it comes to a plain level, settles down, and then it has got a big bank, and it forms a very big river or a very big source of water. In the morning, people used to worship with river waters, but at the same time they used to go for toilet, washing clothes. This washing clothes actually, soap is entering in rivers, rivers are getting dirty, rivers are full of bacteria, and what is happening is that the longer the river, the number of places through which it is coming, and through each place, if a small nala is coming and falling on the rivers, then the nala is adding dirty water to the river. The river, if it is not speedy water, it produces stagnant water or the flow is very slow, with the result that algae formation occurs. The fishes and other fish material take oxygen for their existence from water, and if this oxygen is also taken by algae, then the oxygen contained in water is reduced, with the result that fish start dying, and several deaths have occurred to fishes because of this particular negligence throughout the world, more so common in countries which are not developed. Our habit therefore has to be completely changed or modified, so that we do not make rivers dirty. Rivers were also useful for a good cause, and the cause was for transport. Big rivers like Brahmaputra, where ships are operated, and these ships transport goods. The Brahmaputra region, which is very famous for tea and rice and wood, that is Assamese wood and Assamese tea, is exported throughout the world. This particular export material was taken through the rivers only, and the transport of this material through a ship was a cheap method, because we are not spent on constructing roads. For that, the river has to be broad, the water in the river has to be deep. If the water is less and the river has become shallow, then the big ships cannot enter in the river. This precaution, if you do not take it, then all our rivers, which were utilized actually for a good cause of transport, cannot be used now. It is only in Kerala where they are using rivers for transport through small boats. But Kerala has done one more additional thing, which is profitable to him and a good advantage to the tourist. Kerala is a tourist landmark, and they have constructed or built sanctuaries across the rivers. So, when you are moving through the ships or small boats, you can visit different sanctuaries. And since the river is big, that is Periyar river, so Periyar sanctuary is very famous, and Kerala has become a good tourist season or a good tourist region because of this particular facility. This facility has to be utilized by all the rivers, and that is why the rivers have to be cleaned. Cleaning of rivers was done by Rajiv Gandhi planning of clean Ganges, and now Prime Minister Modi's call for clean Ganges in Varanasi. It is only this month, on the 18th of this month, he has asked 50,000 volunteers to be present at Varanasi bank and help the authorities to clean the river. We have to make a very good awakening. This particular awakening is possible only if volunteers from school and colleges, they teach this particular aspect to their parents and compel the people not to use the age old method of ours, which pollute water. This particular pollution of water, therefore, of the rivers is mainly to a more extent in underdeveloped in villages or small places. River is a very common device for drinking water, because if well water goes down, and automatically we can go to the river and bring water. That water already is polluted, because the buffaloes swim in that water, people take bath in that water, and water therefore is highly polluted. So, unless and until we clean our rivers, we will not have a good source of water at our disposal. This particular fact has to be taught to primary schools and school children. Then and then only it will percolate in our society. But difficult part is that we cannot get pure water, because water is less in our country. We talk so much amount of water, but the rainfall is poor every year. This particularly has produced famine, and you must be hearing and reading the famine, the suicide cases of farmers because of the poverty and because of paucity of water. Because of water is less, soil cannot be given water abundantly, because soil does not get water, crops do not grow abundantly, and that is why poverty enters in society. This particular aspect has to be seriously thought of. So, what we have to do now is use our water very carefully. Do not pollute the rivers. This particularly is possible by seeing that garbage does not enter rivers or nalas. Garbage is a very great problem in our country. So, when you think about water, you have to think about so many other problems surrounding it, which can be called as a water cycle. The garbage problem is so rampant that where to throw garbage itself is a problem for municipal corporations. Wherever they go and throw garbage, the people residing side by, they complain that we get stinking. The stinking actually is responsible for nozzle effect and nozzle diseases. What we say now, that we have to be extremely careful of all these things and use our water very economically. These economic functions, what we should do is, we should pray rain God to be kind towards us and give us enough water, so that we can use it at least for a good cause, our river should full with water, they should flow abundantly, and this particular flow therefore should not be hampered. We have talked about rivers, we have talked about nalas. In rivers where water is abundant or big rivers where water falls and goes very fast, we construct dams. We have got Bhakra Nangal Dam, where we have blocked the water of Satluj, and this has made Rajasthan green. What has happened now is that when you construct big dams, we have to hire a large amount of land, and this particular land, normally people who hire this want to be, they actually expect a land to be very fertile, which is very close to the cities, and which will be very useful to them if forest is available in the neighborhood. What happens therefore, that we have to surrender, or the villagers have to surrender a large amount of chunk of land, though they get a heavy compensation for that, but the country loses that fertile land. Dam is constructed, people start making the society, surrounding cities are built, and lot of pressure is on the land. So, now a trend that is coming up, that we should not go after big dams, we should go after small dams, and small dams are good because the land required is not much, they can be controlled easily. In India previously, actually olden people used to construct dams coming from mud. These mud dams used to be very stable, and they have done their work very successfully for years together. We should continue it, and therefore, we should continue with a proverb, small is beautiful. So, dams have to be constructed, these dams have to be utilized, then there should be rain harvesting. In the rain harvesting, we have to spare and take care of every drop of water by building lakes in the cities and in the villages. Every society in a city should be asked to have a small reservoir in the society itself, where water can be deposited and will be used at least for 3 to 4 months during summer. It means that water should not be wasted. A large amount of water is required for crops, so that should be, there should be drip irrigation. About that we shall be talking later on when we talk about soil pollution. The last point now to be discussed, that is called sea pollution. Sea is abundant resource of water, but the water is salty. Across every country's harbor, there is a large amount of sea, and if the harbor is to be used properly, and if you have got a good amount of harbor, a deep sea, then the ships can enter in the harbor and transport. We have got two beautiful harbors like Calcutta and Mumbai. That is why Mumbai and its neighborhood is utilized by the British people to transfer their cotton from India to Manchester. What it means is that the ships should come very close to the harbor, so that the problem of transport of material should not be expensive. Since sea surrounds almost every country, it is an international rule that a country's rule or a country rules the sea up to 20 kilometers. After 20 kilometers, the sea becomes international sea. That means nobody has a complete right over it, everybody has a right and anybody can go ship fishing for it. If you go deep inside the sea is 4 to 5 miles deep. That is why you have got huge ships, and these huge ships actually are utilized for fishing purposes. This particular fishing is of course of large size fishes, and if this particular material is brought in the market, it fetches a good amount of money. Near the land, the fishes are not very big, they are the small fishes, but they can also be captured and a good amount of money can be collected by the fishermen. Now, the problem with fish is this, that fish is a very delicious food and it has to be stored and then it is to be used by human beings. So, storing also is very important, and a fish should not be contaminated or should not be polluted. The pollution of ship is because of the rivers which are coming to the seas, they bring all garbage and throw in the sea. That is why the harbors are not clean. There is second problem that is called oil spillage. When the steamships or boats actually sail through the boats, they spill oil. This oil spillage itself is very dangerous, because the oil goes inside the sea. Oil is not soluble in water, it floats over water. That is why sunlight cannot enter, and oxygen demand, which is given as BOD, biological oxygen demand, is reduced, and the sea get contaminated because they do not get proper oxygen, and because of the garbage they get contaminated. In the deep sea, another problem is there. The big tankers actually which bring oil from different regions of this world, they are so big that each tanker carries almost 300,000 tons of oil. By chance or by luck, if there is a spillage of oil, or there is an accident resulting in a spillage of oil, this particular oil goes in the sea. One more point is there, that a ballast is always to be clean, that when the ship is used or what is called navigational boats are used, the oil has to be consumed. The quantity of oil in the tank gets down and the tank gets shallow. In order to balance the ship, water is added to the tank, so that it can take the place of oil and maintain the balance. But this water gets contaminated with the oil that is sticking to the walls of the tankers. This oil is therefore contaminated. Ultimately, the oil is to be thrown again back to the sea, which is polluting the sea again. What is very interesting thing is that we are technologically developing. We have got so many sources by which we can transport oil, but transport has to be done very carefully, very wisely. The accident about which we have spoken in Alaska speaks about this particular aspect. One more point is there, that below the sea there is a surface of and in that surface there is a quantity of oil, and this existence of oil is possible. As all of you know very well, every country is after getting oil, because oil is the index of prosperity, oil is the index of technological progress. This particular oil is 4 to 5 miles deep in the sea. There is a search of oil, therefore, drilling occurs. This particular drilling is done through a platform built in the sea. So, all the material built to construct a platform, everything goes in the sea itself, and a huge pipes are drilled inside the sea until they go to the surface, and then again it is drilled to search whether water is oil is available or not. The abundance of oil, therefore, though it is very necessary for the human beings, directly or indirectly we are playing a part to make the sea contaminated. You will not believe, but there are conflicts in the sea for the use of these particular places. There are international conflicts about the rivers. If the river is coming from Himalaya, it comes from Tibet, and China says that Tibet is their region, then it comes to Bangladesh, it comes to West Bengal. So, each particular country wants to have the maximum amount of water. We also got Krishna Kaveri conflict. What happens is that in the source, when the river starts, it flows fast. As it goes down, it slows down. That is why people who are in the beginning, or regions who are in the beginning or the mouth of the river, they want to claim maximum amount of water, and they do not want to share water with the neighboring regions. So, there are international conflicts on the river, there are international conflicts on the rivers. This means water is abundant in the river, as you say, which is ultimately responsible for the conflict, because water is not abundant. The regions which are not receiving enough water, they have gone to courts of law and asked for more water. So, what we say is that water is a unique liquid. It is unique because of the fact it is very useful for drinking, but nowadays it is causing conflicts. The water conflicts in villages are known to all of us. The water conflicts on common taps is known to all of us. The water conflicts in our families, whenever we do not get enough water, is also known to all of us. So, the only conclusion I can draw from all the discussion is that we have to be extremely careful in using water. What I would appeal to all the students who are hearing this particular lecture, to at least teach 10 to 20 people in their neighborhood to be very careful about water, because water is treated as a god, water is treated as a goddess. We worship God and Goddess. So, water has to be taken maximum care, so that it will be useful not only for us, but for the next generation coming after us. Thank you very much.